Good afternoon, class. Today we will be learning about a short story written by Edgar Allan Poe, The Masque of the Red Death. I have a short, modern interpretation of the story that I'm sure you all will relate to. Plus, there's a short interview with the author. I was you all to take notes because after the video, I'm going to ask each and every you questions.
This is so stupid. I would so much rather watch the Emoji Movie.
Shut up! Or I will give you all a quiz instead of the questions.
The Red Death had long affected and devastated the country. Blood everywhere, sharp pains, profuse bleeding affected the country. But worst of all, there was no Wi-Fi. But Prince Prospero was happy, dauntless, and sagacious. His people were dying, yet he summoned his rich-ass friends to the palace.
This masquerade ball will be the swaggiest in the land. It shall be a luxurious scene with a clown named Pennywise, strippers, Justin Bieber, and lots of alcohol. There will be a lot of security too.
What kind of security will it be?
A giant wall, of course. How else are we going to keep out the peasants from the castle?
Not me. This will be a great night without any peasants bugging us. There will be laughter all around us.
Party's wet, man. I don't want to leave.
Yay! Then don't. Let's dance. What the hell is this? Play something better.
Wait. First, let me tell you about the rooms in which it was held. The first room is called the Blue Room, and it represents birth. The second chamber was purple, and its ornaments and tapestries, and here the panes were purple. Yeah. The third was green throughout, and so were the casements. The fourth was furnished and lightened with orange, and the fifth white, and sixth violet. The seventh apartment was closely shrouded into the black velvet tapestries that hung over the ceiling and the walls.
Dude, I'm dizzy. I'm gonna sit down.
No, don't. I have the perfect room for us. To chamber 7!
Why can't I see anything?
How many shots have you had? Has too much alcohol made you blind? There's not much to see in here besides a tall clock in the back.
Only a clock? That's lame. I thought the prince would have better decor than a clock.
Shut up.
What time is it?
40 past 2.
And why exactly is this in the afternoon?
Because I felt like it. And if you don't like it, you can go up and leave with all the germs and diseases and dying people.
Stop the fighting. We've been in here too long. Let's leave.
How have you had a clock for Prospero?
A good 10 years? It's broken, so there's no use of it. Let's go tend to the others.
I thought you said it doesn't work.
Well, how would I know?
Don't you live here?
3 hours later.
Hey.
Who are you? Who do you think you are coming in here in your gross black rags thinking you can party with us? It's Wednesdays. We wear pink. Seize him! And so we can hang him.
I'm Julio Montoya. Prepare to die.
Never! I shall slay thee!
Go.
Now the Red Death was acknowledged, coming in like a thief in the night. One by one, he dropped the revelers in blood, bedewed in halls. The life of the ebony clock that struck every precious hour also died that night. The Red Death held illimitable dominion over all.
Welcome to this week's author interview. This week, I have the pleasure of interviewing the great Edgar Allan Poe. Welcome, Mr. Poe. You are quite the person. But before we start off, I would like to just ask you, how are you?
First of all, you don't have to call me Mr. Poe. You can call me tonight.
Okay, anyways, so I'm going to start off with some personal questions. What was your childhood like?
I was born on January 19th, 1808 in Boston, Massachusetts. My parents died before I was 3 years old, so I was raised by my uncle. I was sent to the best boarding school, but eventually went to the University of Virginia. However, I was forced to leave less than a year of schooling due to my uncle because he wouldn't pay my debt for gambling.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, what do you do in your spare time then?
In my free time, I gamble, drink, and gamble some more. I also write and deal with my depression with gambling and drinking. Did I mention I drink?
Next question. So, your wife, Virginia, right? Who's also your cousin? You married her when she was 13. Why?
Well, yes, she lived with me, and during that time, or we lived together, and so during that time, I just fell in love with her, and I felt like I just had to be with her.
Okay. Alright, Poe, I'm going to ask you some questions now on your short story, The Masque of the Red Death. What inspired you to write this short story?
I considered the Black Plague of the Middle Ages a big influence on my story. Also, the death of my family members, because they died from tuberculosis.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about that. What themes did you portray in your short story?
So, you can't always control things is one of my themes, because Prince Prospero tries really hard to prevent the death from entering the castle, but he fails, and he falsely believes he can keep the death out. The other one is death, because no one escapes death. At the end of the story, it reminds us that death comes, and I quote, like a thief in the night. Even those who seek peace and safety shall not escape.
What were the motives of Prince Prospero in your short story?
The motives of Prince Prospero was to keep him and his wealthy friends safe from the plague, locked inside his large castle, just basking in his wealth while everyone else painfully died.
Last and final question, Mr. Poe. If you were to go back and completely rewrite this, what would you do, change, or add? Anything?
I would have made it way more depressing.
What did you all think of the movie?
I think the prince is super hot. He's like Zac Efron, Liam Hemsworth, and Chris Pine all rolled into one. Ew! No! The prince is total trash! Look who's talking, dumpster queen.
Enough! Now, time for some questions. What was the exposition of the story?
Prince Prospero's character is introduced to us at the same time the Red Death introduced, which is a plague that has destroyed the kingdom.
Good answer, good answer. Now, what was the conflict?
The prince thinks that he and his friends can escape death, so he was a ball with his rich friends.
The rising action is when the intruder comes in. The falling action is when the intruder kills the prince, and the resolution is when everyone finds out the intruder is death and that they all die.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me turn my desk around because I didn't know you were the teacher.
Student 3, quiet. But Miss Knowit all was right about the rising action, falling action, and resolution. In the video, they mentioned you can't always control things, and that death are a part of the themes in the movie. There is one more that isn't mentioned, and that is foolishness. The prince and his friends foolishly think they cannot hide from the death, but in reality, they can't. Okay, so any of you have an idea on what some of the symbols are in the Masque of the Red Death?
The prince represents wealth.
The clock represents how much time we have before we die.
The intruder represents death or the plague.
The runes could represent the 7 deadly sins.
All of those answers are correct. The rooms can represent many things, but they mainly represent the stages of life. Blue is birth, purple is youth, green is adolescence, adulthood is orange, old age is white, imminent death is violet, and death itself is black. I have another short summary to tell you guys, so listen closely. The clocks in the Masque of the Red Death and There Will Come Soft Rains both represent time. In the Masque of the Red Death, the clock represents how much time is left before the house dies. Some similarities between both of them are, both of the authors made the story have a gothic, horror, slightly depressing feel to it. It's not funny. Shut up. Listen closely for this part. Off your phone, off your phone. You too, Missy. Down. Down. Okay. Test questions. These are hard. 5 points each. Fail it and there's no retakes. What do the 7 rooms symbolize? What are the 2 themes in the Masque of the Red Death? And what story is similar to the Masque of the Red Death? Why? Remember, class, there are 2 important characters in this story. First is the Red Death, and second is Prince Prospero. This is about the Red Death. Listen closely. When he shows up suddenly at midnight to Prospero's masquerade, he just starts slowly, silently stalking around, scaring people, until the man in the Red Death costume kills Prospero and gets mobbed and unmasked. But remember, he is not a guy. He's the real Red Death.
So he's not like a person?
Gary!
Whoa.
Exactly.
You're kidding.
I know. So the next important character in the story was Prince Prospero, as you all read. He is described as dauntless, sagacious, and hey! Phone down, please. Thank you very much. Turn. Hey! Stop! As I was explaining the story,
Whoops, my bad, sorry.
Prospero is dauntless and sagacious. He thinks that he is superior towards all people and leaves them to die. But in the end, and the theme says that evil holds illimitable dominion over all.
What a jerk!
Dude, Prince Prospero was so hot.
Yeah, he was a jerk!
That's so attractive.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I beg to differ.
Okay, dumpster queen, no one cares what you think.
Hey! Alright, class, do you guys understand the story?
Yes.
Good. Quiz tomorrow, remember that.
Oh no.
Unit
Go
test
screw
on Tuesday.
yourself.
Shut up. Out the door.
How are you?
First of all, you don't have to call me Mr. Poe. I was gonna say, you don't have to call me tonight. You can call me Mr. Poe. No, ma.
Wait, is it? I thought it was
don't
one
know.
Because ma.
Let me turn my desk around so I don't have to see that face anymore.
Everyone's glad they
You
don't
guys
see your
understand?
face.
Ja, yo comprendo.
Yo no hablo inglés.
Ich spreche Deutsch.
How was Beto?
Chup kar bachi.
Du call me man?
क्यों?
Cookies?